The fall of the Roman Empire. Lessons for modern societies. Picture this. You're walking through the bustling streets of ancient Rome. Merchants shout their wares in crowded marketplaces, gladiators prepare for the spectacle of the Colosseum, and philosophers debate the nature of life and power in the shadow of majestic temples. Rome is a beacon of human achievement, a civilization so advanced it seems eternal. Now imagine those same streets centuries later. Silent, overgrown with weeds, the once mighty aqueducts broken and dry. The great empire that controlled the known world has vanished. How did this happen? How could a civilization so powerful, so seemingly indestructible, crumble into ruin? Was it internal decay, ruthless enemies, or a slow, inevitable decline caused by their own hubris? Most importantly, could the lessons of Rome's fall hold the key to avoiding a similar fate for modern societies? Let's unravel this mystery together. Rome's greatest weakness. At its height, Rome wasn't just a city or a state, it was an idea. The Romans believed in the concept of Roma Aeterna, eternal Rome. They saw their empire as the natural order of the world, destined to rule forever. This belief was not without merit. Rome's achievements were staggering. A network of roads stretching over 50,000 miles, aqueducts supplying clean water to millions, and a military so disciplined it reshaped the map of Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. But this success bred overconfidence. The Romans began to see their dominance as unshakable, ignoring the warning signs of decline. Their arrogance led them to dismiss threats, underestimate enemies, and overlook the cracks forming within their society. What happens when a society believes it is too big to fail? Are modern nations repeating the same mistake? The empire's hidden weakness. Behind the grandeur of Rome's monuments and the wealth of its elite lay an economy teetering on the edge. Initially fueled by conquest, Rome thrived on the spoils of war. Gold, silver, and slaves from conquered territories flooded into the empire, creating immense wealth. But this system was unsustainable. As Rome's expansion slowed, so did its flow of resources. The economy began to falter. To fund its armies and bureaucracy, the empire turned to heavy taxation, especially on the lower classes. Inflation soared, and the value of Roman currency plummeted as emperors debased coins by reducing their precious metal content. Meanwhile, the gap between the rich and poor widened dramatically. The elite amassed immense wealth, building lavish estates and hosting extravagant banquets, while the common people struggled to survive. Social unrest grew, and the fabric of Roman society began to fray. Today, we see growing economic inequality and financial instability in many parts of the world. Could the economic fragility that doomed Rome also threaten our modern systems? Political corruption. The empire eats itself. Rome's political system, once a model of governance, became its undoing. In its early days, the Republic thrived on civic duty and shared power. But as the empire grew, so did the ambition and greed of its leaders. Bribery, backstabbing, and assassinations became the norm. Emperors were often chosen not for their ability to lead, but for their willingness to pay off the Praetorian Guard or eliminate rivals. Some reigns were so short and chaotic that Rome cycled through 22 emperors in just 50 years. This instability made it nearly impossible for Rome to address its growing problems. Instead of focusing on reforms, leaders indulged in personal power struggles, further weakening the empire. Imagine living in a society where leadership is unstable, where decisions are driven by personal greed, and where corruption undermines progress. Does this sound like ancient Rome, or perhaps a warning for today? Overexpansion, the limits of empire. Rome's vast territory was both its greatest strength and its Achilles heel. At its peak, the empire stretched from the windswept hills of Britain to the sun-scorched deserts of Egypt, encompassing millions of people from diverse cultures. But this massive expanse came at a cost. The sheer size of the empire made it incredibly difficult to govern and defend. Roads and borders required constant maintenance, and the legions were stretched thin, fighting on multiple fronts. Rome's enemies learned to exploit this overextension. The Visigoths, Vandals, and Huns launched devastating attacks, forcing the empire into a defensive position. The sack of Rome in 410 AD by the Visigoths was a symbolic moment. The heart of the empire had been breached. Today's global powers face similar challenges, whether it's maintaining military dominance or addressing the environmental and economic costs of globalization. Overreach can be a society's undoing. Losing the Roman spirit, Rome wasn't just a military and economic powerhouse, it was a cultural beacon. The Roman values of discipline, duty, and civic responsibility defined its citizens. But as the centuries passed, these values eroded. The Roman people grew complacent. Gladiatorial games, lavish feasts, and other forms of spectacle became distractions from the empire's growing problems. Meanwhile, civic engagement declined. Few citizens wanted to serve in the military or take on the responsibilities of governance. The empire began to lose its identity. The sense of unity and shared purpose that once defined Rome faded, leaving it vulnerable to internal division and external threats. Could our modern obsession with entertainment, consumerism, and comfort be steering us down a similar path? Environmental and external pressures. Rome's downfall wasn't just about internal decay. External factors played a critical role. Climate change led to poor harvests and food shortages, creating unrest among the population. At the same time, waves of barbarian invasions tested Rome's already stretched defenses. The Huns, led by the infamous Attila, terrorized Europe, while the Goths and Vandals chipped away at Roman territory. These external pressures exposed the weaknesses within Rome, hastening its collapse. Strength or weakness? Rome was a hub of technological and architectural innovation. Their aqueducts supplied cities with fresh water, their roads enabled trade and military movement, and their concrete structures still inspire modern engineering. However, as the empire aged, innovation stagnated. The drive to improve and adapt was replaced by complacency. Instead of investing in new technologies or strategies, Rome relied on outdated methods. Their enemies, meanwhile, adopted and refined Roman tactics, turning them against the empire. The stagnation of innovation is a warning to today's superpowers. In a rapidly changing world, technological complacency can leave even the strongest nations vulnerable to disruption. Could the reluctance to embrace change in critical areas, like renewable energy or cybersecurity, lead to a modern equivalent of Rome's downfall? A fatal mistake? In 285 AD, Emperor Diocletian made a bold decision to split the Roman Empire into two halves, the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire, also known as the Byzantine Empire. The idea was to make governance more manageable and defense more effective. While the Eastern Empire thrived for centuries, the Western Empire weakened and eventually fell in 476 AD. The division created rivalries and reduced the resources available to each half, making it easier for external forces to pick them apart. Division weakens. Whether it's political polarization, economic inequality, or international disunity, the lesson is clear. Fragmented societies struggle to stand against external threats. Are today's global divisions paving the way for a modern fall? A double-edged sword. The rise of Christianity in the Roman Empire marked a profound cultural shift. Initially persecuted, Christians eventually gained acceptance, and by the 4th century, Christianity became the state religion. While this unified much of the population under a common faith, it also created divisions. Pagan traditions that had been central to Roman identity were abandoned, causing cultural rifts. Additionally, the church began to wield political power, sometimes conflicting with the empire's secular leadership. Religion can unite, but it can also divide. In modern societies, ideological and cultural shifts can create similar tensions. Could changes in societal values disrupt modern civilizations as they did Rome? The power of propaganda. Maintaining the illusion. Rome was a master of propaganda. Triumphal arches, statues of emperors, and coins depicting military victories were tools to remind the populace of Rome's strength and glory. Even as the empire faltered, these symbols kept the illusion of power alive. But eventually, reality caught up. The people no longer believed in the myths of invincibility, and the empire's cohesion unraveled. In today's world, propaganda takes many forms, from media narratives to political rhetoric. How much of what we see as stability is an illusion? And what happens when that illusion breaks? Rome's legacy, a mirror for the future. Despite its fall, Rome left an enduring legacy. Its legal systems, architectural principles, and cultural achievements shaped the foundation of Western civilization. However, its collapse also serves as a stark reminder of what happens when a society fails to adapt. As we face challenges like climate change, economic inequality, political instability, and technological disruption, the lessons of Rome's decline become ever more relevant. Will we learn from history, or are we destined to repeat its mistakes? Lessons for modern societies. The fall of Rome is more than a historical event. It's a cautionary tale. It teaches us that no society, no matter how powerful, is immune to collapse. Economic stability is crucial, and wealth inequality must be addressed to maintain social cohesion. Strong ethical leadership is vital to avoid the pitfalls of corruption and power struggles. Overextension, whether in resources, military, or governance, can lead to disaster. Cultural values and a shared sense of purpose are essential to maintaining unity. Finally, adaptation is key. Societies that fail to respond to changing circumstances are doomed to repeat the mistakes of the past. Rome believed it was eternal, but history proves that even the mightiest empires can fall. The question is, will we learn from their mistakes, or are we destined to follow the same path? The choice is ours.